they need respect and you sort of disrespect them, but you still give them money, they're very recruitable. Turnover is very, very high. Just so when you're going after someone, when you really understand these 8 things, just ask them, which of these 8 are they interested in? How much of that are they getting at their work? That's why you can take people, it's like a recruiting magnet when you understand that if the person isn't getting respect where they are, and that's the number one need they have, and your company is a respectful environment, it's very attractive, even though the money may be the same or less. So I guess I basically say to reduce turnover, you create an environment that maximizes their strength and make their weakness irrelevant, realize that everyone's not like you, and find out how do they differ and how do we meet their needs, not just sort of a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And then just encouragement, affirmation, encouragement, like Wally was saying this morning. Those 3 things would be, I'm sure there are other dimensions, but those 3 are really, really high on the list. And the other thing is, if you look at the really great companies, the truly great companies, a part of the reason they're truly great is they can keep their people. And if you look at the companies that you just really wonder how are they ever going to stay in business, their turnover is massive. Yes?
On number 7, ask yourself profound questions that visualize where you're going to be in 10 years, long term.
Mm-hmm.
The second was 10 issues that you need to address to get there. The third was, why do you want to get there? Everything seems so well thought out in your presentation that I was wondering why C isn't B.
It isn't meant to be a rank order right there. It could be A. It isn't that there's a sequence in those 3. It's like these are just 3 examples of profound questions to keep asking yourself all the time. Or to keep asking yourself. To ask yourself profound questions like these 3. It isn't meant to be sequential or prioritized. Was that your question?
Yes.
Okay. Speak loudly, if you would, please.
Back to number 5, I wonder if you could...
I don't have those in front of me. What was it? Cheryl, could you bring that up?
Everyone likes to plan,
Okay.
but most don't like to set goals.
Okay.
Just clarify the percentages again. I heard at one point 80% of people are opportunists, and then another time it was 5.
Okay, let me clarify the statement first. Thank you. Everyone likes to have a plan, but not everyone likes to set goals. It isn't that most people don't like to set goals, although most people don't. But if I were teaching it, I'd say everyone likes a plan, but not everyone likes to set goals. The percentages are not empirical research percentages. They're my experience percentages. And it varies a little bit per group. But I would say in all of society, it's my best guesstimate after teaching on this for a number of years that it'd be 15% goal setters, 80% problem solvers, and 5% opportunity-oriented people. Now be careful here if you're opportunity-oriented not to refer to yourself as an opportunist. An opportunist has negative loading in it. It's like opportunist implies I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity in the process, take advantage of you if I need to. But opportunity-oriented has a very positive connotation. But that would be the percentages. Did you have a question about it or just a clarification? Okay.
The next point, at 6, you were talking about the burnout, and you get to a certain phase when you increase your business. Now you're at a phase that you don't fit into.
Mm-hmm.
I missed the list of the phases, and then would you elaborate? Because I'm not in manufacturing, let's say, but I look at this, I could superimpose manufacturing on this, but if something I'm in, I don't understand the phases of the part.
In about 1980, one of the things that the question was, in number 6, when you talk about burnout, would I explain the phases a little more? About 1980, I began to see this concept of everyone is not like me, because up to 1980, I believed everybody was. I just assumed everybody's like me, wanted what I wanted, liked doing what I did. It's like, it just was shocking to me when grown adults didn't look at it like I looked at it. And what I began to see was that I think about 80% of the people in society are still there. I literally do. But one of the things that I began to see was if you could help people see the various differences people had, once they saw it, lights came on and they could understand how they could work together better. And the thing that really showed it to me was a conversation that I had with my assistant at the time. I was at World Vision designing and developing a little love loaf program, a little money container in the shape of a loaf of bread with an ichthus embossed on the top of it, which has now raised millions and millions of dollars, but I was just still designing and developing it at that time. And it was like every day I saw some new way to improve it, change it, make it better, higher potential, something. And my assistant came to me one day, she said, "Bob, when are you ever going to let this thing settle down?" She said, "When are you ever going to stop changing this?" I looked at her and I said, "Patty, probably the day I die or leave here is the day it'll stop changing, or if it stops changing, I'm out of here." I said, "Does this bother you?" She said, "It drives me crazy. It's changing all the time." And not in a way that, I just said, "Patty, look, chances are you'd be happier down in stewardship where nothing changes." It's like it's been the same way for 40 years. I mean, Lee Bernard, who was World Vision's early stewardship guy, they'd been down here for 15, 20 years, and they had all their procedures in place and everything. And I said, "Seriously, you may enjoy it more down there than you do it here, and I would understand if you applied for a transfer." Not asking you to, I'm just saying I'd understand if you did. Shorten the story, she did, and she was a happy camper there for like 20 years. What I began to see was that as an idea goes through time, it goes through various phases. And there are probably 50 ways you could describe the phases. But the way I've shortened it down to, because I see the very specific, definitive borderlines on it, are a design phase where it's pure theory. It's like there's no prototype in place, there's no model in place, it's just pure theory. You've got this idea. The second phase is the design develop phase. It's actually a combination of design and develop. And it's where you develop the prototype. You take it from theory into making it happen the first time. Then it goes into the develop phase where the model is up and it's going and you're beginning to take one McDonald's store and make it 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 15 in the Midwest. Then the develop stable phase is the fourth phase, and that's where you get 15 restaurants going, but the French fries are cold and the milkshakes are warm, so you've got to have someone that's good at refining, improving, maximizing. That was Fred Turner in McDonald's history. And then the fifth phase is this, what I call a stable phase, where things are always just real stable. And people say, I'm sure, when I tell them these 5 phases, they say, "Well, Sherlock, what gave you the first clue? That's been known since the Stone Age." I say, yes, but what I began to see early was that every person in this room prefers one of these phases to the other 4. And they hear, "Really? What? Which one am I?" It's like, where do I fit in here? And when you can define that, which our team profile helps you define that and helps your team define that, then the real aha in it for me was that the team chemistry becomes predictable. If we had time, I could say to you, all right, tell me about your 5, if this is your executive team here. Matter of fact, you got 5 people at home on your executive team. Don't even tell me their names. You don't have to tell me they're male or female. Don't have to tell me their age. You don't have to tell me their ethnic background. You don't have to tell me anything. Just give them each a number. But tell me where they fit in the phase, and then also at level. There are 2 things in the team profile. One is the phase. Which of those 5 phases do they fit in? And the second is what level. Because I began to see that some people want to be the president of whatever they're in charge of. This is going to be an aha for many of you who are presidents trying to choose good vice presidents who have been presidents of other things that might not want to work for you. Some people, in their heart of hearts, want to be the president. They want to be the head coach, the senior pastor, the top dog where the buck stops. That's what I call presidential captain. Some people want to be a captain, but they don't want to be the president. They want to be what I call a middle captain, the associate pastor, the assistant coach, the vice president, the middle manager, the middle captain. Mature adult people who are not on their way up the ladder, that is where they want to be on the ladder. The third is some people don't want to be the captain of anything. They want to be on the team, make a strong contribution, have a respected input to the direction of the team, but not be the captain of anything. That's what I call a strong player. So there are 5 phases: design, design, develop, 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 stable, stable, and 3 levels. Okay? I wish I had a thing I could draw, because they're actually overlapping circles, 3 overlapping circles. You got the design phase, and then where the design and develop overlap, they're design develop, and where the develop stable overlap, you've got develop stable. Okay? And you got the 3 levels. If you would just tell me your executive team and put a number in each sort of where they go there, I can predict their chemistry for a next hour. I can tell you who would be try to boss who. I could try to tell you who do you think who should lead the team, who would follow the person naturally. I don't care if it's an age inversion. I don't care if it's a sex. It's like male or female. I can tell you how to put that team together in terms of team chemistry based on that profile. Now, so what happens is often that a person who is a designer developer gets an idea. They come up with an original idea. By the way, there are 2 forms of creativity. This is real important for you to understand. There are 2 kinds of creativity. When I used to ask people, are you creative? They'd say, some people say, well, yes, I am. Some people say, well, no, I'm not really. That was the wrong question. The question is, how do you create? Because everyone in the room is very creative. The point, though, is that some people are originally creative and some are adaptively creative. The originally creative starts with a blank sheet of paper. They like to come up with a solution no one has ever seen as far as they know. And if you hand them 2 or 3 samples of how other people have done it successfully, they'll say, well, I'll look at those later, but I want to clear my own head first. They'll get their own thinking clear first, and then they'll look at those others to see if they missed anything important. This is the person that says, if it's been done once, why would we do it that way again? The adaptive creator is just as creative, but it's very different. They say, I'd like to have 1 or 2 or 3, even 1 model of how it's been done successfully once. Look at this. Your wish is my command. Let's give this man a hand. So, let's see, where was I? Okay, and so the adaptive creator, their sort of national theme is, why recreate the wheel? Why recreate the wheel says basically, I'm not original in my thinking, but if you give me a sample of how 2 or 3 other people have done it successfully, I can take those, mix and match them, and come up with something that's far better than anything I've seen. That's creative, it's just not original, it's not a blank sheet of paper. Well, the designer-developer and the designer-developer are original in their creativity. The developer, stabilizer, and stabilizer are adaptive. I've got, maybe you can pick up over on this board here. Maybe this will be dark enough to see it. You see that all right? Maybe I guess you can. Okay, you got these 3 overlapping circles: a design, a develop, a stable. Where these overlap, you've got design, develop, and develop stable. Then you've got 3 levels that go through all of these. Some people are presidential captain designers, and some people are presidential captain stabilizers. Some people are middle captains, and some people are strong players. And a part of what I'm saying to you is that if you divide these down like this, there are some very, very clear distinguishing dimensions to each of these phases, and everybody prefers one of these 5 to the other 4. And once you understand which phase you prefer and which phase your team prefers, it tells you a lot about how team chemistry will work. But it also shows you that, let's say you're a designer developer who has this original idea. Remember, these two are original creativity, and these 3 are adaptive. Let's say you come up with an original idea as a designer developer. You get the prototype up and going. And by the way, for those of you who are designer developers that enjoy developing prototypes, making it happen the first time, there's what I call the 7/8 wall. We were talking about burnout. They call it 7/8 wall. 7/8 of the way through the first prototype, your interest drops your natural motivation drops like a flat rock. Just boom. I've proven to the world it'll work. My theory will work. Here's the prototype. Look at it. Any fool could see it'll work. Now give me a new idea. Then give me another idea. But it's precisely 7/8 through the first prototype. It isn't clear through the first prototype. It isn't halfway through the first model. It's 7/8 of the way through the first prototype. Your interest drops like a rock. The problem is that your team is just beginning to even get it, maybe, or your spouse maybe just be starting to get it. So what it is, it's more like a series of gears where the design team should come up with, in a sense, a theory or design develop. Come up with a theory of it, develop the prototype, and then there needs to be a handoff to a developer who can basically take it around the country and hand it off to a developer stabilizer who refines it, maximizes it, debugs it, and then give it on to a stabilizer who will keep it going for the next 20 years. The problem with a lot of people who develop companies, the entrepreneur that starts a company, is that often there are designer developers or developers, they get an idea, they'll get it up and going, but once it gets down into here or down into here, their interest is so far gone that it's excruciating to go to work every day. It's like, this is so boring. We're just doing what we did last year. And so they sell it, but you know what? The high profitability is down in here. It isn't up in here. This is sort of break even if we make it or not. But down in here is where it gets really profitable. So a lot of people sell their company. 3 years later, their wife is kicking them, saying, "Why did you sell that company? Now it's worth $3 billion. You sold it for 23 cents." You know, they have to be sort of. So the ideal, in a sense, is to build a team where those things are connected properly. Now, let me just go through a couple of these to give you a couple other thoughts so you can see which you are. Let me give you the honor word first. If you're going to honor one of your vice presidents who is retiring, and you know that they are in some particular phase, talk about how do you keep people, over time and create an environment where they don't turn over, etc. If a designer is retiring, you talk about how brilliant they were. This person was brilliant. They brought in the most brilliant patents we've ever had in our company, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's the most honoring word to use with them. With a designer developer, you use the word wise. This is one of the wisest people we have on the team. To the developer, most courageous. Now you may say, well, Bob, none of these are insult words. I'd like to be all these. Of course you would, but not at the same level. Some word in here is going to hit you like a 10, and the other ones may be 8s or 7s or 6s or 5s. When I get all 5 of them, ask yourself, which of these, if I could only have one, which one would I have? Developer stabilizer is faithful. Joe has been one of the most faithful people of all, or Sally has been one of the most loyal people of all. Let me give you their orientation. There's when you first come into an environment, your first day on the job, let me tell you how you sort of get oriented to what's going on here. The designer says, what is the theory, the theology, the philosophy? The designer developer asks, what's the process we're involved here? What are the 10 steps? How does this lead to this, lead to this? What's the process we're involved in here? The developer asks, what goal are we really trying to reach? What goal are we really trying to reach? Not what goals, but what goal are we really trying to reach? Once you say, all right, we're trying to sell 6,000 units a day in 2 years. Okay, got it. And then all of his energy unlocks, or her energy unlocks toward that goal. The developer stabilizer basically asks, what is the result you're trying to get? You may say, well, what's the difference between goal and result? Well, the difference is that a goal is just to sort of get to the top of the hill, whereas result is we've been at the top of the hill many times, but there's a more efficient way we can get there. And the stabilizer's orientation is actually control. Basically, how do we keep this under control? If something goes wrong, how do we get it under control? Now, another thing would be burnout. Not BO, that doesn't mean body odor, that's burnout. Okay. The designer burns out when the problem is solved theoretically. As soon as the theory is clear, the designer wants a new challenge, a new mental challenge. A designer could work on something for 10 years and never be bored, as long as the problem hadn't been solved yet. But the second the theoretical problem is solved, they want to move on to something else. They don't want to move to the prototyping phase of it, if they had their natural preference. Now, the designers are the ones who have the most problem in school, by the way, in the early years. If you're a designer, school and elementary was probably not a pretty sight for you. Because designers are seen as daydreamers, they're seen as lazy, they're seen as sort of ne'er-do-well kind of thing, but they're always thinking of this latest theory or something. Until they get together with Bill Gates and Bill sticks them in a room and they develop a whole new theory of computer chips or something. The designer-developer's burnout point is, like I told you up here, 7/8 of the way through the first prototype. The developer's burnout points, they have 2 burnout points. Number 1 is 2 years in 1 day. A developer, if you look at their resume, if you look at your own resume and you're a developer, you'll see that every 2 years, if you take the number of years you've been out of school, divide it by 2, that's the number of projects you've had. Either different companies or different projects. Is it that you're irresponsible? No. It's that God made you to be a developer. You work on a 2-year burn cycle. And the way it goes, for those of you who are married to developers, it goes like this. Day 1, if the goal's clear and there's a model in place, it's like just enormous energy, like excitement, energy. 6 months, same thing, energy. 12 months, man, this is exciting. 18 months, this is exciting. When are we going to need a new project? Oh, never, man, I love this thing. 2 years in 1 day. I think maybe God's calling me somewhere else. I'm sort of losing interest in this. This is sort of, I just sort of feel burnout, honey. I need a new challenge. This is just sort of getting boring. 2 years in 1 day, mark the time. You may say, well, Bob, I've been at the job I'm at 3 years. I say, what's the last year been like? You say, not pretty. I've asked that 100 times. The answer is always the same, not pretty. So it's 2 years in 1 day, or until there's a sense of failure. Because developers, for some reason, have an enormous fear of failure, typically. There's the third one, and that is when the goal has been reached. In other words, if the goal is reached, this person wants to go on to something else because they're so goal-oriented. It's like, if the plan to take 2 years and you got it in 6 months, what am I still doing here? There's a sort of disorientation if there's not a clear goal in sight. The developer stabilizer is about 4 to 5 years. In other words, they want to stay at something 4 or 5 years and get pretty good at it and get it ramped up and then begin to, they want to move back into a little more challenge, but not clear back in here. They want to move sort of back a little ways into something with a little more tweaking necessary. And the stabilizer is 20 plus years or until there's disloyalty. Loyalty is such a high value for a stabilizer that if there's not loyalty, they want out of the environment, or they want to control the person that's disloyal, get them out of the system, or they want to leave. But if there's loyalty, they'll do basically the same thing for 20 years. And some of you in the room may say, "Are you kidding me? Why would anyone do something for 20 years?" I say, everyone's not like you.